Okay, everybody, thanks for tuning in to All Things Division 3 Soccer with SimpleCoach and Jackie. I am SimpleCoach, and that there is Jackie, the CDO, Chief Dog Officer. So really excited about today, finally, after, probably longer time of me thinking about these, I'm able to announce my best 11 women's team. Along with some other worthy players who I just think just were outstanding this season. And yeah, so I get to announce this. I'll be doing the men here shortly. Again, same. It's not the easiest thing to do to reduce down so many outstanding players to a select list. But yeah, I'm taking a stab at it today with this best 11. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so, as is typical with SimpleCoach, I can't keep things easy. So I actually have a whole set of rules that I decided to do when I put together this best 11, just to make things a little bit more interesting and force me to sort of take a look more broadly at a lot of teams and a lot of players, and select the players that I think, for whatever the reason is, I could probably go into depth on each of them as to why they sort of had an impact on me as I watched, or they just clearly outshine the rest, however you want to describe it. But so like I said, I just sort of came up with some rules in that that I'm tried to stick to. So the first rule for me was that I had to have watched the player at some point in the season. So I couldn't not watch player and just sort of take it at face value. And so I made I watched as many games as I could, and I sort of honed in on players that I had heard about, or I'd read about, or they got some sort of weekly award or something. And obviously the rankings helped, but so that was the first criteria. The second criteria I had to do was that I had to create a realistic roster, and I it was more because I don't like when you see the All-American awards or what have you. Like there's 10 forwards and 2 midfielders, and or however they distribute it. So in my mind, I was like, I want to create a roster, a legitimate roster, balanced. Think of it in terms of, okay, if I play a 4-3-3, how would that look like, and how would I select my players, and especially the best 11 themselves, the top 11 players. It is a 4-3-3, right? So I have the 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 forwards, and I don't tried not to deviate that with that. And the the rest of the players also sort of have a similar distribution, where there's more defenders, and there's midfielders, and then there's a realistic number of forwards. This really was a little bit, I sort of fit folks in based on what I had watched, so they're not wedded to the position that they necessarily play in for their school. But like if there was some element, you could see it a lot with outside backs, so you're thinking, oh, they would be a great winger. And so I tried to look at it that way as well, to maybe expand out sort of what a player was capable of doing. Really, like I said, I really tried to look at this in terms of how to balance a roster and how do you create a starting 11. So, okay, so for this group, there are 30 players that I selected that are the bomb, right? Like for me, are the bomb. And of those 30, there are 11 that are the best 11. But in my book, of the 30 players, you can have multiple players from the same school. So, and you'll see, I talk a little bit about sort of how it broke down and the distribution. So you can have 3 players from a school, or you can have 2 players from a school. But the trick, and which I didn't realize how hard this was going to be, the best 11, so the top 11 players, you could only have 1 player per school. So in my mind, I was like, each individual could only represent a school. So it forced me to basically really hone in on, again, all those other rules. Does it fit within a roster? Does that player fit within a roster versus another? Do I like somebody more in that position than I do? So might explain why it's December 22nd and it's taken me a month and a half to get through the list, because it really forces you to think, and really make choices based on what you think the group would play like. So okay, so if you take a look at it, I had 8 teams that were represented that had 2 players apiece. So Case, Messiah, Loras, Christopher Newport, Misericordia, Ohio Northern, Trinity University in Texas, and Pacific Lutheran had 2 players apiece that sort of are represented in the roster. There was one school, surprisingly, and this is not intentional, by the way. It's not the way. I didn't set out to say, hey, I only want 2 players from Ohio Northern, or or 2 players from Messiah. It's just the way it sort of panned out as I was going through the list. There was one school, Calvin, that had 3 players on that made the 30 players, made the list of 30 players that I thought were the bomb. In total, 21 schools are represented in the list of 30, and like I had mentioned, there's 30 players that really sort of, I think, represented sort of, if I was to put together a killer roster of a team, like these are the folks. So I'm going to run through the players that aren't the top 11, and then I'll just focus in on the top 11, and I'll try to make comments as I'm going along. So let's see if I can get myself. Okay, so let's start with the players that didn't make what I call the best 11, or didn't make that best 11 roster in my mind. And I'll start with goalkeepers. I sort of broke this out into each position. So number one, who I just think is an absolute fantastic goalkeeper for a sophomore, is Calix Dodge. Love the name Calix. Never would have known that was a name. So first of all, she's single season records for shutouts at 18 at Calvin. Goals against average are 0.2, right? And I mean, the Calvin was an extraordinary team, but this is some heavy duty goalkeeping, right? So she's one that I was really impressed with watching. And then the other is Callista Burke at Rowan University. She posted a 0.27 goals against average. And she had 13 shutouts. And they won I think she led the NJAC, right? So, and then she made, NJAC goalkeeper of the year. She was ranked top 10 in Division III goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. So an outstanding, outstanding goalkeepers right there. So in between the two. Okay, so on to defenders. I just had to go. I couldn't help but be impressed at her presence in the back line as Christina Axelson, a sophomore. Messiah University, and she was just so good. She's the MAC Commonwealth Defensive Player of the Year. Lindsay Carr at Center College, an absolute. To me, she's an anchor, a defensive anchor. Um, where the Calvin only gave up 21 goals, and only something like 15 shots on frame, and I think she was a large part of that. And Center College's success is largely thanks to her. Kylie Cabana out of Ohio Northern University. She was a first team all OAC selection, and she was the conference's co-defender of the year. And anyone to have her on the back line would be lucky. Another Calvin, I really like Calvin's defensive posture. Like, I thought they were super organized, and they had just some great talent. Lucy Iverson, again, out of Calvin. She's a two-time, she played Defensive Player of the Week. She was named to the All MIAA first team. She was the most valuable player for the MIAA, and this is her as a freshman. So, she's got some runway to really make a difference. Bailey Mayer out of Trinity University. She was Defensive Player of the Year for the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference. That's the second time she was that player. She's the Defensive Player of the Year. And she's first team All-Region. She's All-American selection for the second year. And not to mention, and she's smart, because I think she's got a bunch of academic awards like All-District and All-American. So that's something, obviously, I like to see. Okay, on to midfielders. So that was the defensive. Let me go back. That's the defensive. Those were the 5 defenders that I sort of looked at and thought they're outstanding. And so now I go to the midfielders, which I think are 6 or 7, something like that. So first up, she could have easily been the best 11, but I was, again, the way it worked out, I was more impressed, or I liked another player from Misericordia, if I must say so. But Michaela Fausolino, grad student at Misericordia, she was second on the team with 52 points with 21 goals, 10 assists. She's 11th in the country in goals and 20th with total points per game with 2.26 points per game. An outstanding ball player, like vision, like you wouldn't believe, just has an uncanny knack for reading the game. What you hear about it, you can't say enough. She's just fantastic. Sophomore Ellie Cox from Christopher Newport University. To be quite honest, I was impressed with her last year when they went on the national championship run. And the best part about her is she's a really tough defender. And she's another one who has a definite read on the game and is able to sort of kill attacks as they're being created, because she steps into the right places, picks off balls, does all that dirty work, and then gets forward. But I just liked her defensive side a lot. Alyssa Beckett from Ohio Northern University. She's, all region, all Ohio, all OAC. 4 goals, 2 assists. I just think she has a really good view of the game going forward, is able to make the ball do the work, and is just fantastic in how she's able to lead the team forward. So, out of Case, Annika Washburn, Case Western Reserve. She's a senior. All region honors. She's all UAA for the 3rd consecutive season. So just an outstanding midfielder. And look, she's one of the pieces of the puzzle as to why Case got to the finals, right? Peyton McDonald, excuse me, from Loras College. She's first team All American, and she was second team last year, and just again another outstanding midfielder. Julia Cosby from Pacific Lutheran, a sophomore, and she's part of a tandem. Like, to be honest with you, she was third team All Region, and she led the team in. She was second in the team in scoring and with points. So definitely an offensive threat for the Lutes. Okay, from Illinois Wesleyan, Kaylin Steffens, senior. She was the CIW Offensive Player of the Year. Incredible. She had 21 goals and 5 assists. Yeah. Okay, and now to the forward line, or to the forwards, which I think are 6 or 7 as well. Okay, so Katie Sullivan, out of a sophomore out of Johns Hopkins, All-American, 14 goals, 12 assists. She led the team in assists and was second in goals. Just a stellar career. She was really good last year as well, but this year she just upped it a notch. So, yeah, just a remarkable ball player. Out of Trinity, Sophie Mueller out of Calvin University. Again, another Calvin player, All Region for the second straight year. She had 8 goals, 5 assists, 21 points. Again, a solid forward target player. Really enjoyed watching her play. Sarah Smith, out of grad student out of Christopher Newport. I was a fan of hers last year. She was outrageous. And just scores goals. She's got, I think in her career, 40 goals. She's got 40 games. She's got 20 goals, 4 assists. Yeah, and obviously she won the national championship last year, and they got to the quarterfinals this year. So just really. So next up is Patience Cum. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Love the first name. Out of Amherst, Amherst College. She is also a sophomore. She scored a total of 9 games, 4 assists. She was NESCAC Player of the Year. Lightning quick. So second team All Region, just outstanding and great to watch. Looks like she has fun when she has the ball. Like, that's the type of player. Okay, Michaela Bosco from here, Trinity University in Texas, another sophomore. She led Trinity with 20 goals. And it's probably, it's one of the best in Trinity history. So another outstanding finisher. So. Okay, so that was the top. I'll just say the ones that didn't make the starting lineup, and then these are the players that to me just sort of took it to a different level. And yeah, so let's start with that. Let me just get okay. So here we go. So Nikki Olson. From the University of Scranton, goalkeeper. She is a sophomore. She led the landmark in goals against average of 0.26, 11 shutouts, made it to the NCAAs, and I mean, she's a rock back there. I thought her distribution was really good. Her view of the game was really good. Her anticipation on plays was really good, and obviously her abilities, her shot stopping abilities were, to me, I think they just sort of separated her from the rest. Next up, Jules Wick. I don't know. Sorry about that. Grad student McDaniel Conference. I'll just say, in a very, very tough Centennial Conference, she was Defensive Player of the Year. So as a defender, I think she's clearly one of the best, if not the, well, in my book, the best defender. Next up, Julia Martin from Messiah University. She is also a sophomore, and she's the MAC Commonwealth Rookie of the Year. Absolutely outstanding performance, and think there's a lot of pieces to the Messiah puzzle that are responsible for getting them to as far as they did to the Final Four. But she's defensively, I just think she was the key component to that. Okay, from Babson College, Laura Lukowicz. She, as well as a sophomore, a lot of sophomores. Two-time All NUMAC, and Babson was just stellar defensively. So I think she was the leader of that team, that defensive unit. So out at Pacific Lutheran University, Ella Mert, a junior. She was the NWC Defensive Player of the Year. She was All-Region, I think All-American as well. Just an outstanding defensive performance by her and Pacific Lutheran, and think a lot of their success was in large part due to her leadership back there. So, midfielder now, Julia Berg from William Smith College. She's All-Region. She's the twice named Liberty League Defensive Player of the Year. She is a two-time first-team All-Liberty League. And she's smart because she's got the academic awards as well, region and league and what have you. So I thought she's one of the best midfielders that I had watched all season. Another one that I couldn't help be impressed with, but I was impressed with her last year, is Gianna Capola from the College of New Jersey. She's a senior. She had 8 goals, 9 assists for 25 points. She's the one of the NJAC, which is brutal co-midfielder of the year, and just all conference and whatnot. So I just loved watching her play. She's box to box, really is a threat on either side of the ball, right? Like, so she's really good on the attack, obviously, but then just a killer defender that is really hard to get around. Okay, Maddie Perro from Tufts University, a senior. She scored 5 goals and 11 assists. And I'll tell you, I haven't seen somebody who loves to shoot more than her. She can, it's not like they're dainty shots. She knows how to pull the trigger from distance and near, and really make it dangerous. So really liked watching her. Okay. Well, she's a forward, so that was a mistake. So that was my error. No, she's a forward. Riley O'Brien, Loras College, senior. She's 5th in the country with 25 goals. Obviously, Loras made the tournament. Just absolutely fantastic ball player. And really does have a nose for goal, right? Like some forwards, that they get the ball, that she has a nose. For the amount of time she put herself in the position to score, and then actually scored, and just remarkable. Let me be real. On the forward line, oh my gosh, like to have those three to play together, I think even I could probably win a national tournament, because then the next one up, Emma Schweitzer from Misericordia, D3 player of the year, justified, had 24 goals, 16 assists. So not only was she scoring goals, she was giving goals, which is remarkable, which again, as a forward. And I will add, she is only a sophomore. Definitely a lot of runway and more great things to come from her. But and she's a blast to watch when she has the ball. Just like the next one. So Cameron Hartman, grad student from Case Western. She was at the University of Cincinnati before, but she's earned her All-American. She's become an All-American, All-Region, All-UAA. She had a team high of 13 goals. Just absolutely remarkable. And she had 10 assists. Like, it just... that amounts to 36 points. It is single season record. No, the second most single season points in program history. And she ties the single season assist record. She third most goals. So just a remarkable player. So. All right, so that's my best 11 women's team. I hope you enjoyed. If you had any thoughts, any comments, concerns, you have some better players, by all means. Like I said, think about my rules. I had to have watched them, so as hard as I tried, it's kind of hard to watch as much soccer as there are games. So, all right. Thanks, and this was fantastic. All the players get a golden Rice Krispie treat as their award. So hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you on the next one. If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my chief marketing officer. I think this keeps him happy.